So as promised in the previous video, I'm going to show you my new car, and it has over 500 horsepower, 4-wheel drive, and it is a Tesla Model 3 Performance.
What are the specs of this car?
So this is the Tesla Model 3 Performance, which has a dual motor, one in the front, one in the rear. This is pushing out around 377 kilowatts, so roughly around the 506 horsepower mark. It's about 650 newton meters of torque and it weighs about 1.8 tons dry. So it's very, very quick. It's 3.1 seconds to 60. And an interesting thing, this is one car that can do 162 miles an hour. Pretty much most other EVs can only do up to 140 for the newer performances. And like the Jaguar F-Pace, or I-Pace, that's about 120 odd miles an hour, and same with the other Model 3s. This is where this car performs in aspects we can't see if the road's clear or not, so you can just punch it out. Wow. You just punch it out and then you're good, you're clear.
It gets you every time.
It's really good for overtaking, as well as, you know, if you ever find you're stuck at a junction, you can't get out, it just literally gives you the power to jump out in front of cars. And you know, it's safer to have the power, in my opinion, and obviously provided you use it well, but that's life.
So why did you decide to buy a Tesla Model 3 and specifically an electric car?
I've always been a huge fan of the Teslas and Elon Musk, so I've always wanted one, and I've wanted one since they pretty much came out. But the issue for me was back when they first were coming out, back during just around COVID time, they were so long to get an order. It was like 2 years at the time, and I just decided it's not worth waiting 2 years for a car. So I bought the big Silver Merc, which we just sold, because we did a load of road trips and it was big, spacious and stuff like that. But since I bought it, not done any road trips or anything, so I mean there was no use having the car sitting around. I was driving it, but I mean nothing crazy.
So what's the reliability supposed to be for the motors and the battery? How long should they last, and does launching put any stress on the motors?
Okay, really good question. So with the performances, Tesla gives them 8-year warranty, and I think it's up to 120,000 miles. So if there was any issues with the motor or battery, at least, they will replace it basically under warranty. So I mean, that gives you some kind of idea that Tesla believes the car should last at least a minimum of 8 years under, you know, standard warranty, which you don't generally get with other cars.
Yep.
You know, other cars you maybe get 3, 4, 5 years.
How does this car perform against a normal combustion engine?
It performs very differently. So this here you have one pedal driving mode, so you basically never have to touch the brakes unless you're really hammering the car. Obviously you can change that in settings, but the benefit of the electric motors is you have really instant power. Like previously with the Merc, if I was going to overtake, I put my foot flat on the accelerator and I'd wait maybe about a second to a second and a half for the gearbox to kick down and to build RPM to actually get the power to overtake. This here, you put your foot down and you're ready to overtake, and it's super responsive, which you don't get in any other like combustion engine, maybe like a hybrid, but that's electric engines again.
Yeah.
So it really performs well. It doesn't perform as well on like a top end speed. You know, if you're going to go race it, let's say a Audi S3 or something would be comparable to this would take it straight off the line. There's no doubt about that. You have the torque and you have the instant power, no gear shifts, no nothing. But I mean, on the top end, you're probably going to lose to the Audi, where it'll have better gearing. But I mean, that's just what you get with having a car with no gears. It's just, it has its benefits and has its cons, but anything, you know, up to the legal speed limit, this will just stomp everything.
Okay, so we're currently coming up to the Black Arch, and I'm excited for this. Excited to hear the exhaust note, hear what you sound from it, because as you say, 500 horse, I'm sure it's going to sound absolutely brilliant. So let's get the windows down. That is the wrong button. There we go.
So because you obviously don't have a combustion engine, there is no engine noise, but what you have is a Star Trek kind of warp noise, which is kind of cool. So I'm just going to go through here.
It gets you every time. Oh my god. But yeah, the noise is interesting.
It really is.
Since the car has got 500 horsepower, how is it like to drive? Is it very difficult?
No, it's actually really easy to drive. You've got Autopilot, which is fantastic for doing long trips, or like, you know, going on motorways. You've got the adaptive cruise control, And you've got, I mean, on the performances, you have something called chill mode, and you have sport mode, and you have track mode. But in chill mode, I think 0 to 60 is around 7 seconds with your foot flat on the accelerator, which is very comparable to just an average kind of like daily car. But even in sport mode, the car is very, very easy to drive, because you don't, it's not a linear power curve. When you put your foot on the accelerator, even if you're halfway, you're not getting like 70% of the throttle or 50% of the throttle. You're only probably getting like 25 to 30. So you don't end up having like massive jerking, you know, like forward, or like, you know, it's very uncomfortable. It just like, you know, when you put your foot flat on the accelerator, you get that instant power. So you can drive it really nicely and pretty comfortably in sport mode without having that like crazy turbo lag kind of thing where it just kicks you, unless you wanted to. So I mean, it's pretty easy to drive. But I mean, this is probably the only kind of car that has the autopilot, which as good as what it is. You literally can drive the car, put it into autopilot, and it'll just take over and drive. It'll offer you options to take and change lane. It'll navigate. Now, full self-driving is not available in the UK just yet, but when it comes out, you'll basically be able to go, take me to Starbucks, and it'll drive you to Starbucks pretty much, which will be pretty awesome. But I mean, that's just UK laws, so please update those. This video has been proudly sponsored by SureSleep. With SureSleep beds, you can get a restful night's sleep, and I can attest to that with family members having purchased their beds. You get great quality, great customer service, and they offer free assembly and delivery here in Northern Ireland. So get an extra £10 off with the Gear Shift crew, and enjoy the rest of the video.
That is a prime example of just the benefits of an electric car.
Exactly, when you have a cyclist on the one side and a pedestrian running on the other side of a very narrow road. I saw them, I didn't have to wait for them to pass, I just literally just shoot between the two of them with space to spare.
What are some of the quirks of the car?
So literally just walking around the car, there is a camera in the front here on the front wing, you have a camera in the B-pillar, you have 3 cameras up in the windshield, you have a camera inside, so what's that, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cameras? I think the car's got roughly 9 cameras just from just a glance. You've got parking sensors all around, and when you're driving, now we're in the UK, so we use meters and like centimeters, millimeters, but it shows me how close I am in inches. I mean, I understand inches, but I mean, what's 30 inches to some random person? Like, 30 inches, that's just under a meter. You know, it's a little confusing in that aspect. I mean, software update, guys, please. Otherwise, you got the single screen in the front. You've got the vents, which is freaking awesome. Because I mean, I'm actually surprised at how good it is. You've got instant heat on the heaters because it's electric heaters, of course. You've got a front trunk, well, the frunk, which is surprisingly spacious because this is the dual motor. So if you get the standard range plus just the single motor one, you get actually more space in the front because there's obviously no motor there. You have huge amounts of boot space. I mean, shockingly good boot space. The S-Class I had was huge. I mean, you could fit me and IKEA in the boot, and this is bigger. When we went, we were like shocked because we had packed the S-Class full of stuff, like snacks and stuff, and when we went across, we were concerned that we weren't going to have enough space in the Tesla because obviously it's a smaller car, and we had actually extra space. We had spare space, which was surprisingly weird in a smaller car.
Interesting.
Yeah. What do you think of Autopilot?
It's an interesting feature. Obviously, this is more meant for motorways, and this was designed in California and America, where obviously there's a lot of major roads and not narrowy, and not narrowy, twisty roads. But surprisingly, as you say, does really, really well for everything like that.
It's quite
that was pretty good.
Sharp corner, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised at how well it does. I would love to see when Autopilot, like the full self-driving comes out, because I think that's going to be really interesting and cool. I'll definitely use it pretty much all the time. But, I mean, not yet. Please change the law, sir. Yes, Donna. Probably the best things from when we were on the road trip was my girlfriend and my brother's wife were in the back seats, and they were mentioning about the fact that there's no I mean, in a normal car, you have like a big lip that comes up in the middle seat. There's no lip there, and actually underneath the center console, it actually goes in, so you can actually put a feet there. So it's really, really comfortable if you're gonna have passengers in the back, which is great. You've got the panoramic roof, which is, I mean, that's unreal. Like sitting in it, every single time they looked up, they were like, I feel like I'm outside, which is really nice. It's just a pity the roof doesn't obviously open, but I mean, you can't have everything, and you got to take some sacrifices in a sense, but I mean, it's fantastic. I really like it. What do you think of the full panoramic roof?
Well, because we're sitting in the front seats, we can't really see it too much because it's kind of out of my peripheral vision. But sitting in the back, like your girlfriend said, it's unbelievable. Yeah. It's really, really nice. You see everything. Yeah, you do feel like you're outside.
Yeah, you really, really do. I mean, even like when you look up, you can like see planes, which you don't generally see. Now, I know there's so many other cars that have sunroofs or panoramic roofs. This is like one of the first cars I have that has like full panoramic, which is quite nice. I rather like it. I know quite a few people have complained about the fact that you can sometimes get sunburned through it, but I mean, I think that's more of a California problem than a Northern Ireland issue. So probably one of the awesome, well, most cool features in the car is the big 15.4-inch display in it. You have access to YouTube, Netflix, Spotify. There's like a whole load of apps there. I mean, there's a huge amount of them. Well, I mean, let me give you an example when it was really handy. When we were waiting for the ferry. I think we had to wait about an hour and a half because we got there nice and early. Mm-hmm. We just sat and watched Netflix in the car. I mean, that was really, really handy for that aspect. When we were in the S-Class on the way there, you couldn't watch Netflix in the car. So everyone was kind of sitting on their phones, being antisocial. And now everyone was, being able to do something together, which is kind of cool. When we were driving, it was a long drive. It was 4 hours roughly driving. And you got the sketch pad there. So my brother was doing, I mean, it's a pictogram, whatever, like the game.
Yes.
He was busy sketching stuff, and everyone was kind of like trying to weigh in on what he was doing.
Yes.
You've got, I mean, the fart function, which is kind of cool. You can put in whichever seat you want. You've got Santa mode. You've got Rainbow Road. You've got, I mean, you've even got Fallout Shelter, I think it is on the car. There's about a dozen games, dozens of apps. I mean, you keep you busy for hours. Mm-hmm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the car in track mode. So I go to the setting button on the right at the bottom, and I go to dynamics. Once I'm dynamics, go to track mode. Obviously, it gives you a bit more of a disclaimer. I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to customize. I like my no name brand, and it is at 60% power to the rear, 40% to the front, stability all the way off, and then regen on max. You've got post-drive cooling, compressor overclock, and it saves dash cam for obviously laps. Over on this side here, you have, let's swipe that away, you have your G sensor, which obviously gives you your G forces. You've got your tire pressures, you have your brake temperatures, your motor and battery temperatures, as well as this track, and shows you no stability control. So what I'm going to do is we're going to just drive forward, and it's a little more responsive, gives you a little more power. What we'll do is we'll not do anything crazy. We'll just do a 0 to speed limit. So there's it there.
This is the launch.
Do a 0 to 60.
Yep. the instant torque.
Yeah, instant torque. And we actually didn't break speed limit. We did exactly 60 mile an hour, guys.
We actually did.
We did. So that's pretty good.
Now it's time to rate the car. So first question, Future Classic.
This is a very hard one to say. We were discussing this earlier about the fact that, obviously batteries are going to last. It's going to be something that's going to stick around. But I have a little bit of a controversial opinion. I think there's a good likelihood that it's going to be a future classic, for the reasons being that obviously it's a Tesla. It's one of the first affordable cars that are available to the masses that are electric. It's been quite a huge success. It made Elon Musk the richest man in the world. So I think for the fact that it's brought so much to the electric market, so electric vehicle market and the actual car market in general, I think it's going to have an impact, and I think collectors are going to go believe that it is.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where you're coming from. The only issue is will the batteries and motors last that long? Who knows?
Well, I mean, there's a Tesla Model 3 which is over 430,000 miles on the original battery motor. It's a very hard thing to say, and I think there will definitely be ones that last. So I'm going to say it's likely. I'm going to say we give it maybe a 4 or 5. What do you think?
I'd give it a 4. Is that a bit harsh?
I think a 4 is fair.
Okay, 4 it is. So, daily.
Oh, to be honest with you, it's actually pretty good. So I went from having the S-Class, which is a huge car, huge amounts of space, and pretty much perfect car in general for daily. I think it's a very, very practical car. You've got great, huge amounts of space, boot space specifically. You've got the panoramic roof. I think it's really, really good. I wouldn't call it God tier for the fact that you don't have the legroom. And the fact that, I mean, that's really it, to be honest with you. It's the legroom.
The legroom,
that's the only
bit of a headroom, bit of a
in the rear seats. I'm 6'2", and my head is just about a touch. So I mean, like, if it wasn't for legroom and the headroom, I would call it pretty much God tier daily. You got the performance. You got 500 odd horsepower.
Yeah. Okay.
0 to 60 in 3 seconds. You can't compete anything, and it's incredibly cheap to drive. So I'm gonna give it, in my opinion, an 8.
Okay, we'll go for that. Wallet hurts.
Ooh, so this is one of those crazy ones where it's expensive to buy but cheap to run, low maintenance costs, but when something breaks it's going to be expensive.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think you're going to need a trust fund when it breaks and to buy it, but it's cheap as anything to daily drive and to maintain. So why don't we meet in the middle somewhere about an arm and a leg, roughly around between a 4 and 6. Call it a 5.
Call it a 5. Call it a 5.
I think 5's fair.
Yes.
Right in the middle.
Okay, fun. Now this is fun, definitely, because of the launch, and you've got that instant torque. It's brilliant fun. Only thing is, it just doesn't have that like end pull, with in a half-mile drag race, a petrol-powered car usually beats the Tesla. Usually.
Yeah, well, that's the fact down to gearing. But if you look at it in the point of it being a daily car, which is, if you're driving around towns and streets, there's pretty much nothing that can compete with it. Mm-hmm. And the really fun thing about it is you've got all your built-in things like, you got YouTube, you got Netflix, you got Spotify, you got all that drama. You have the performance. A lot of people like the car. A lot of people admire it. So you're kind of always smiling in it. So I'm going to honestly say maybe a 7 or 8 for like the smiling never really stops, because if you're not smiling about having like a joke with someone in the backseat, so a bit of fart noise, or you're not smiling at the fact that you can just watch TV or have the performance to beat a Golf R from a launch at a traffic light or something like that, there it's pretty much hard to beat.
I'd put an 8 for that.
I think so. 8's fair.
Yeah.
So what do we rank at?
Well, that gives us a total of 25 and a percentage of
62.5%. Which is pretty good.
So thank you so much for watching, everyone. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow our new podcast channel. Link in the description. So yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. If you look behind us, there is a massive queue of cars. Everyone probably hates us because we're doing 25 and a 40, but I mean... Hey, we're being safe. Exactly. No one can say we're driving unsafe. Exactly. No one's got their hands off the steering wheel at the minute. Au revoir.